very good morning to you, Ms. Zille. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning, Xolani. It's great to be with you. Please call me Helen so that we can both be on first name terms rather than Mr. Gwala.
I thank you for that. Thank you very much. Just firstly, just broadly talk about the election campaign. You know, sometimes we see pictures of politicians like yourself all over the country dancing and doing all sorts of things. Do you ever get tired?
Well, I sleep very well at night, I can tell you that. And it's great exercise. You know, I love a good dance and I'm full of energy. So I do get tired at night, but then I sleep very well.
But do you get a sense that there is a lot more intensity about this election campaign than any other that we've seen in the past, perhaps from the DA's point of view?
There's a wonderful buzz. I've never known an election campaign with so much energy, with so much warmth, with so much engagement from people. And everywhere I go, there is this connection. It is wonderful to see South Africans taking their democracy seriously.
So are you suggesting that South Africans perhaps are even more aware of the issues than they have been in the past, where perhaps the issue has just been about, voting because I have to vote? Are they now more interested in issues?
I think we are a rapidly maturing democracy, Xolani. And I think that people are informing themselves. They're asking very good questions over all media, face-to-face in our public meetings, on Twitter, on the internet, by telephone. People are engaging, and they're engaging on the right issues. People understand what local government is about, which is basic service delivery, water, electricity, sewerage, refuse removal, roads, potholes, that kind of thing. And so people understand that that is the local government's sphere of influence, and they're asking all the right questions. I think we're a rapidly maturing democracy.
Quite interestingly, about a month and a bit ago, you wrote on your newsletter that the upcoming local government election could prove to be a watershed moment for South Africa's politics. Do you still believe that?
Yes, absolutely. I think it most certainly can, and all signs are currently that it will be. You see, Xolani, this election is unique in South Africa's history because for the first time voters have an opportunity at local government level to compare the records in government of two different parties, the DA and the ANC, and to look at all of the independent analysis and auditing that has come out between those respective governments from independent sources and say which party, when it is in government, delivers best for all and actually delivers the better life for all. And voters are asking those questions.
Interestingly, of course, that comparison has been at the heart of the controversies, particularly around Cape Town. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. But I want to ask you just a little bit about Port Elizabeth, which is where you are this morning.
Yes.
It's not the first time. I think it was on the 3rd of April you were there talking about local policing. You were there Workers' Day, and you are there again today.
Yes.
Are we to read anything in this? Do you think that PE is perhaps up for grabs?
Yes, PE is certainly on the table, and I do think that there will be one of the most interesting contestations of all in the Nelson Mandela Metro. We are working very, very hard here. We have for a long time. Service delivery failure here has been nothing short of spectacular under the ANC. It's absolutely tragic to see. It really is tragic to see. And I think voters are saying, well, we have the power. We have the vote. Our vote put the current councillors and the current mayor into power. That power has been abused, and our vote can take them out of power. And the voters are realizing that they have the power and that they must use it.
But you realistically think you have a chance of winning the Nelson Mandela Metro?
Yes, I do. If every DA voter comes out to vote and all our new supporters come out and support us, yes, I do. We can bring the better life for all in the Nelson Mandela Metro.
But the Eastern Cape has always been the heart and the home of the ANC.
Yes, but in a maturing democracy, no party owns the voters permanently. There's been this belief in the past that the ANC owns all black people. Now that is very patronizing to black South Africans. Black South Africans and all other South Africans are realizing that they have the power to decide, and they won't be owned by any political party.
But that belief, sorry to interrupt you, because that belief may very well be based on your performance in the past elections. You haven't been able to get anything more than 2% of the black vote.
Well, I can tell you that has been growing steadily, and the DA is the only party that has grown in every single election every single national elections since 1994. Every other party has gone backwards.
So you will get more than 2%?
I certainly hope we'll get more than 2%. In fact,
No, I'm saying of the
will.
black vote.
Yes, of course.
All right, let's talk a little bit then about the comparison that you say now is available to people, that they can look at the record of the DA and look at the record of the ANC. And the issue of Cape Town is really central to this. Yesterday I spoke to President Jacob Zuma here on the show, and he said that as far as he's concerned, in Cape Town in particular, there's been a regress, particularly for black people. Service delivery for black people is worse under the DA than what it was even before 1994.
Xolani, I was listening to the president yesterday morning. I was listening to him when I was driving towards Attridgeville and Salisville in Gauteng. And I'm very saddened by the misinformation that the president has. I don't believe that he's deliberately misleading people. I just think that he makes assertions for which he has no statistical or research backing, and that is very sad. Because let's look at the facts. The fact is that when we took over Cape Town from the ANC, there were 227 informal settlements in Greater Cape Town that had no services whatsoever. That is how the ANC tragically dealt with the poor. Since we came to power, we focused huge attention and massive resources into servicing those settlements up to the national minimum. And even Minister Sicelo Shiteka's department, when they did their UHABS report, made it absolutely clear that Cape Town had transformed from the worst-run municipality into the best-run municipality as far as service delivery for the poor was concerned. Now in Cape Town you have 100% access to clean drinking water on the national standard. You have 97% access to refuse removal on the national standard. You have 95% access to electricity on the national standard, and you have 94% access to sewerage on the national standard. That is the best by far of any metro.
Let me pick up on the 227 informal settlements, because I then yesterday spoke to a couple of people in Cape Town. Of course, some supporting the DA and saying that the DA has done miracles for Cape Town, but others supporting the president. Here's what they're saying, for instance, on the informal settlements. They say the ANC administration had a plan to deal with these. And among other things, what they're telling me is that this plan involved identifying areas such as District 6, Youngsfield, Colesberg, is it Kulenberg, I beg your pardon, or Foreshore, that those areas will be used then to build middle-income houses and RDP houses. But the DA came in and stalled on those plans. In other words, the DA came and said there's no land for these people. They didn't even take those plans forward.
Xolani, I really don't know where people get the information from. Because let's say, number one, we have been trying like anything to get that land released. In District 6, we have been working day and night to get that project underway. And the entire stalling has been around the manipulation of a tiny group that claims historical control and that in fact has been refusing to allow anything to develop there that they don't control. And again, it's all about who gets the tenders, who gets the contracts, and who can get rich through the program. And we're saying this has got to be open, it's got to be affordable, it's got to be cross-subsidized, and at last we are making progress. And I've met Deputy Minister Tulas Nesi about this a number of times, and at last, because the DA is pushing and pushing and pushing, we're making progress in District 6. Let me tell you about Youngsfield and Wingsfield and a whole range of other places, the Denell land. All of that is Defence Force land, controlled by the national government. I have been working day and night to get that land released. I had 2 meetings with previous Minister Jeff Deutsch. We were making really good progress. Then Jeff Deutsch was fired by President Zuma because he refused to sign and agree to dodgy deals around new police headquarters. So Jeff Deutsch was fired because he was uncovering corruption. And when Mahlangu Nkabinde was put into that place, up till today, after trying again and again and again to get a meeting with Minister Mahlangu Nkabinde, we have been unsuccessful in doing so. So we are pushing. Of course that land must be released. Of course we want gap and affordable housing. Absolutely, yes, we do. And if the national government could just vuka so we can get the stuff happening,
Sure.
I'd be very, very grateful indeed. The
Linked-
breaks are entirely with the national government.
Linked to
Entirely.
that claim about whether or not poor people can move to closer to the cities, their places of work, linked to that is the whole issue of integrated development. They are saying to me that places such as Daffelzig, Q-Town, Athlone, and so on, the ANC had started a program to integrate people there, but the DA stopped that program and started allocating houses in that area on racial basis. In other words, the Africans were not going to benefit out of that. In fact, the colored people were only going to get. So they're saying that the integrated process, the DA is opposed to.
I don't know where people invent these stories from, Xolani. I really don't know where people invent these stories from. Let me first tell you this, that there are long-established integrated suburbs in Cape Town, and I have always lived in them. The first place I lived and the first house I bought was in Woodstock. It's an entirely integrated suburb and has never been segregated. Then when I got married, I moved to my husband's house in Observatory, entirely integrated suburb. And then we moved to Mowbray, where there are a majority of black people where we live. So to say that Cape Town is more segregated than other cities is absolutely not true. But on the housing database, we've integrated the housing database, and wherever we develop, we negotiate a percentage of people from the database who are in need of housing from that area and a percentage from outside that area. So people literally invent stories to make race the dividing issue in South Africa. The DA is uniting all people while other parties are determined to divide. Because as long as the ANC can keep on dividing, they believe they can win. But that strategy is not working anymore.
Because again, President Zuma is saying that the city of Cape Town is Europe-like. There's no doubt about the services there. But if you go to places such as Canaan, people there are living like pigs, he says, and I'm quoting him verbatim here. He says there's no water, there's no sanitation. And the fact that the ruling by the Western Cape High Court on the issues of Makaza is only but just, it typifies the life that poor people are living in Cape Town.
Right, let me come to Kanana. It's not Canaan, it's Kanana, and it is right next to the N2 in a wetland almost. Now that was number one on the city's list for fixing, and we are developing it as fast as we can. We inherited that in the most extraordinary state from the ANC. The ANC had done nothing about that until 2006. Kanana is number one on the priority list. It is below the waterline. Many areas where people went to live is below the waterline because we have a very high water table, and some of those places just cannot be upgraded. But Kanana is our number one priority because it and QQ section are both in very, very low-lying areas, and it's almost impossible to develop services there because the water table is too high, and part of that water table is essential for draining, especially in wintertime, the Cape Flats. So I know about Kanana. The situation is absolutely dreadful there, but we inherited in a far worse state from the ANC, and we're putting in services and we are delivering and developing there. Now you see, the other thing that I heard the President say, and I just don't know where he gets his information from, is that the DA in the Western Cape was the only party and the only government that built open toilets. Now, I really don't know how he gets that information, because in fact, under the DA, nobody ever had to use an open toilet. There were always concrete enclosed toilets on the national standard set by Minister Sicelo Shiteka of one concrete enclosed toilet for every 5 families. Because people wanted more than that, and because we understood that people wanted more than that, because every family wants their own toilet, it's absolutely understandable. On the budget, we tried to stretch it out as far as we could, and the agreement was that every family over and above the enclosed toilets would get their own toilet that they would enclose themselves. But nobody ever had to use an open toilet. And if anyone ever did, and if even a single person's dignity was impaired, we greatly regret that and we apologize. But let me also tell you, Xolani, that the open toilet project was started by the ANC. It was started in 1998 by the ANC Mayor Teresa Solomon and continued by Noma India Mfeketo in a place called Weltevreden Valley North in Cape Town. And the number of beneficiaries was 1,350. They didn't have the benefit of the enclosed communal toilets like the DA provided for people. They only provided the open toilets. And people enclosed their own toilets. Then secondly, Mayor Noma India Mfeketo, also an ANC mayor, in 1999 began the Philippi East phases, which also produced 4,395 open toilets. In Browns Farm, we had Noma India Mfeketo again beginning a project that provided 5,500 open toilets. And so I can continue. President Zuma said on your show yesterday the ANC would never do this. Well, in fact, they have done that. They started the entire project in Cape Town. I'd never even heard of it until I saw the first picture of an open toilet, and then we moved immediately to enclose the toilets. Immediately, we tried 3 times, and every time the ANC Youth League broke them down. What I didn't know at the time was that this project was actually started more than 10 years ago by the ANC, Teresa Solomon's, Noma India Mfeketo, and others. Then, let me tell you this. In other provinces as well, there have been open toilets that have not been enclosed since 2001. This is under the ANC. Let's look at a place called Ramulotsi in the Mokaka municipality in the Free State. There are rows and rows and rows, I think probably hundreds of open toilets that have been built there. And they've been open, according to the affidavits that I've seen, some since 2001, others since 2003. They've never been enclosed, and our people are using the pit toilets that they got from the apartheid regime. This is the tragedy. So the ANC mustn't come and make propaganda out of this kind of thing, because at least the DA always provided enclosed toilets at the same time, and the ANC's open toilet program was really undignified and really inhumane, because they have never provided the enclosed toilets that we did.
All right. Lots of SMSs have come through for DA leader Helen Zille. She is my guest here on the forum at 8 this morning. 22 and a half after 8, 0891 104 208. You've heard her talk about her campaign, talk about some of the issues that are coming out of the campaign. What do you think? 0891 104 208. Let me just take 1 or 2 more calls before I take a break. Lawrence in Port Elizabeth, you're first. Good morning.
Yes, thank you very much, Xolani. Xolani, just 1 or 2 questions to Helen Zille. What I would like to know, this Bavians municipality that she keeps on speaking about here, like in the Eastern Cape, that is so well run, you know, what she does not tell the people, Xolani, that municipality is so small, it only consists of 5 councillors. There's no wards there. Secondly, that municipality, it got a qualified order from the agent out this year. Secondly, what I would like to know from her, in the northern areas of Port Elizabeth, where your talented people live, 77% of them voted for the DA in 2009. But if you look at the candidates list, especially when it comes to the PR, there's only 3 colored people going into council. They've got 5 Africans who are from the towns of Xolani, and the DA doesn't have any support there, or minimal support. And they got 8 white people.
Okay.
Why is it, wait, Xolani.
Please
Why
finish.
is it that always there must be more white people in this party?
Okay. All right. Let me get Helen Zille to respond to that particular call before I move on. 0891 104 208 is the number this morning. Helen?
All right, let's deal with Bavians. There are many, many small municipalities in South Africa. Bavians is definitely one of them. And Bavians has done extremely well, and in fact was nominated by Minister Sicelo Shikeka's department as the best run local authority in the whole of the Eastern Cape. It's the only one that falls under the DA at the moment, but it is the best run in the Eastern Cape, and that's not me saying so, and it's not the DA saying so. It's the national ministry under an ANC minister that measured the differences and said so. For example, Bavians is the only municipality in the Eastern Cape that has completely got rid of the bucket system. the humiliating bucket system that people everywhere else still have to use. And so it has clean audits, and it's been very, very well run, and we're looking forward to winning Baviaans again, because voters are increasingly voting on service delivery issues. Now let's look at the projected council composition for the Nelson Mandela Metro. It's going to be completely diverse. We have wonderful support from the northern areas of Port Elizabeth. In fact, I'm going to Helen Vale the minute I finish this debate. And I'm going to be speaking to all of our councillor candidates there, and I'm going to be speaking to all our voters there, and it's going to be a wonderful visit, and I'm really looking forward to it. Now, those councillors are all going to win their wards. And so we put people on the PR list as well, and we look at the likely composition of the final council, and we make sure it is diverse, because we want diversity, because we're a party for all the people, and because DA stands for Diverse Alliance and Delivery Alliance.
All right. Okay, let's go to Sebastian in Cape Town. Good morning to you, Sebastian.
Good morning.
Hi.
I'd just like to preface this by saying I'm not politically affiliated, so what I'm asking is not to make political capital,
Very
but just
brief.
to pursue equity.
Yeah.
Both Mrs. Zille and Patricia de Lille are, in their speeches, promoting their party by referring to the rates rebates for senior citizens, disabled persons and indigent persons in Cape Town, which is all well and good. However, if you look at the nitty-gritty of the application of the rebate system, and perhaps Mrs. Zille isn't aware of it, but she did say in a speech that if she became aware of injustices, she would rectify them. The Directorate of Revenue in Cape Town is actually applying too expanded a definition of income. In other words, they are including things that nationally, for example, by SARS, would not be regarded as income at all in their definition. And this actually disqualifies applicants who should be entitled either. In other words, the Directorate of Revenue is saying you've got more income than actually the SARS would say they've got income, and the higher your income is, then the more you get disqualified from the applicability of rebates. So this is an inequity that's actually happening. Sort of donations from family or grants are actually being counted as income, whereas nationally they're not. There's even a very bad case of a disabled person recently.
Very briefly, Sebastian, I've got a lot of people to go through.
Being disqualified by them expanding the definition of income even beyond their own very expanded definition. Seems that they have a sort of method of operation of just trying to include everything they can see.
I think we've got the point, though. I think, Helen, will you be able to respond to that? Because the rebates issue is quite an important one for me in Cape Town, because there's also something that in Cape Town is called special rating areas. And some people have said that the SRA in Cape Town perhaps is responsible to a large extent for the improvements that are seen in areas such as the CBD.
All right, let me answer this question. Cape Town has the most generous free basic service package for the poor. That's 350 free litres of water every day, 50 kilowatt hours free electricity every month, free refuse removal, free rates if your home is valued at less than 200,000 rand, and it's an extraordinarily generous package compared with any other metro or city. It is the most generous free basic services package for the poor. Now that has to be funded somehow, and it is funded through cross subsidies from rates from middle class and wealthier areas. And we do that, and we're proud that we do that, because we want to give the poor a better life. And many, many, many poor people have come to Cape Town and are coming to Cape Town, and that money is used to provide the basic services and, for example, to bring those services to the 227 unserviced informal settlements that we inherited from the ANC. So we do tax property owners very high in Cape Town, and we do apply very high rates. Yes, we do.
Let me just pick up on that, because then what it means is if you have money in Cape Town, sorry to interrupt you, because what it means is that if you have money in Cape Town, you get better services.
It doesn't know.
But in special ratings areas, is that not what it means?
The bottom line is this. If you are wealthy in Cape Town, you pay a lot to give free basic services to the poor. And people do that willingly. And they do that with absolute commitment, because they know there's no corruption. They know the money won't be stolen. They know we get clean audits in Cape Town every year. And they know that that money will genuinely go to servicing the poor. And that is what all people want. We want everybody to live in dignity. The special rating areas is over and above when you've paid your very high rates. If you want to pay something extra to go beyond the very basic stuff that we do in more formal and middle class areas, then you're allowed to pay something extra over and
the
above
SRAs are mainly in your wealthy areas, and therefore perhaps when you see the CBD, the crime rate, for instance, you were talking about that in Port Elizabeth and saying that you've been able to decrease the crime rate by about 90%, but actually the reality is that most of the money could be coming from the SRAs, people who are prepared to pay for extra security.
Okay, Xolani, your CBD is the goose that lays the golden egg for everyone. If your CBD collapses and businesses leave your city, poor people get poorer and poorer and poorer because jobs go away with the collapse of the CBD.
Yeah.
Keeping your CBD alive and ensuring that it doesn't go into decline is crucial for economic growth. And if you don't have economic growth, you don't have jobs. And if you don't have jobs, poor people get poorer and poorer and poorer. But it is precisely because I didn't want that kind of differential that I have raised many millions of rands for doing exactly the same types of projects in places like Khayelitsha and Manenberg, for example. I went and got an initial 35 million rand from an international development bank, and the city put in an equal amount of money to do exactly the same project in Khayelitsha under the Violence Prevention through Urban Upgrading project.
Okay.
So we could do exactly the same in Khayelitsha and now in Manenberg. And I think...
Let me ask you to hold that thought. Let me ask you to hold that thought. I'm going to take the news now because it's just after 8:30. When we come back, we'll continue exactly on that score then. Helen Zille, of course, my guest in Port Elizabeth, and I'll be taking calls. A lot of people have been holding for quite a while. Akola in Cape Town is one of them, Gift in Port Elizabeth as well, and a couple of other people that have called through this morning. SMS coming through thick and fast. We'll read those SMSs after the news headlines now with Vabakshini Chetty. Hi, Vabakshini.
Hi, Xolani. The Constitutional Court will today hear argument in an application for an independent probe into the multi-billion rand arms deal.
Retired banker Terry Crawford Brown says that the president has ignored numerous requests to properly investigate the arms deal.
And now for a wrap of this morning's top stories, Cricket South Africa's president, Mtutuzeli Nyoka, says the problems that marred his association with Cricket South Africa and the subsequent damage to the sport should not be underestimated.
It's going to take a process for us to completely heal the wounds. But what we've undertaken, what we're committing to, is to undertake the process of reconciliation and healing.
Farmers say a rural protection strategy needs to be implemented urgently. On the international front, US President Barack Obama has been explaining his reasons for not releasing graphic photographs of the body of Osama bin Laden, who was killed by US forces in Pakistan on Sunday night.
We discussed this internally. Keep in mind that we are absolutely certain this was him. We've done DNA sampling and testing.
And the International Contact Group on Libya, made up of NATO countries and Arab states, are meeting in Rome today to discuss progress and decide a way forward in their efforts to help the rebels fighting Colonel Gaddafi's government.
Now, 11 weeks into the Libyan conflict, it has many issues to discuss. They include whether to lend the rebels in the east up to $3 billion to pay for medicines, food and other supplies.
I'll be back with a full news update at 9.
Traffic on SAFM.
A very good morning, everyone. Traffic lights on William Nicholas Sloan in Bryanston have been fixed up this morning, but it did cause major disruption coming out of Four Ways. The traffic on William Nicol from Four Ways has eased to what you'd probably call a busy normal morning, but there's still a big backlog of traffic on the N1 southbound approaching the William Nicol Drive off-ramp. That highway remains solid from about the Rivonia Road exit at this stage. The N3 coming into Joburg very slow through Grey Avenue up to the N17. Elan's interchange. Problem there is some construction works that are holding holding things up. And the run on Barry Herzog from Linden this morning is incredibly slow. There's a couple of traffic lights down Barry Herzog at the Braids, at Muirfield, and down the bottom at Barry Herzog and Empire Road. So very heavy on the run south from Linden this morning as you make your way down in towards Auckland Park and the Braamfontein area. We reported an accident going into Durban on the N3 at Pavilion. That's been cleared up. Also the N2 going through towards the King Shaka International Airport. Some earlier delays around the Gateway interchange have also cleared, so it's a good run there. Cape Town, the M3 is worth a mention this morning. It's very, very slow. Traffic still queuing from beyond the Constantia Main Road, exiting Constantia Bishop's Court right through to Hospital Bend this morning. There was an earlier collision, plus some wet weather around, and there's just been a collision on the N2 going into Cape Town before Hospital Bend. So traffic from the airport side towards Cape Town, backing up as far as Bunga Avenue. That's the next exit after you pass the N7 Vanguard Drive. Might want to come off at Vanguard Drive, run down to Klipfontein Road perhaps to beat the queues on the highway. Rob Byrne, AM Live, Traffic Watch.
Thank you, Rob. It is 24 now before 9. As usual, 9 o'clock, Sigim Gavadeli takes over with Morning Talk. She is at the World Economic Forum again in Cape Town this morning. Siggy, good morning.
Hi there, Xolani. Well, this morning we're going to look at some of the upcoming sessions, and we're going to start our focus on Africa's infectious and chronic disease burden and its impact on growth and prosperity for businesses and society at large. We're going to ask how governments can become an enabling rather than an inhibiting factor for doing business on the continent. And as usual, Hanan will join us to deal with your psychological and emotional issues. So that's Morning Talk with me, Siki, between 9 and midday.
Thank you very much, Siggy. And my guest here on the forum is DA leader Helen Zille. I'm going to go back to that thought that you were still talking about the special ratings areas, Helen. But Let me just quickly look at people's SMSs. By the way, dozens of SMSs have come through this morning. Lots of very interesting views again. Somebody says, Zunguza in Potchefstroom actually says, DA cannot claim to be a party for all when its federal commit and parliament is lily white in Cape Tenders.
When is it live?
Another one says ANC built a train for the super rich. DA built bike lanes. That's an SMS which is not signed. DA needs hotline. Why are there no posters in Zanin? Ms. Zilla, you are a wise, strong and iron lady. Keep it up. You have my vote for sure. That's Martha in Durban, KZN. Sabson GP says ANC does not have my vote and DA will not own my vote because that will be taking us back to being owned by whites. A slogan for the DA, a happy province produces good sportsmen. Sea Cobras, IX and Stormers, go DA. That's Ruby in Durban. You have our vote in Msunduzi Municipality, DA, Ms. Zilla. That's Sipo in Pietermaritzburg. Spiwo and KZN on this one. We need Helen to be frank, honest and outright transparent. Who funds the DA's exorbitant election campaign? If she fails to do that, then it's sad. That's PO. Frank, in September last year, Patricia de Lille exposed a travel scam that also involved DA MPs. What has the DA done about the alleged culprits? Another one says, as a colored person, I say Helen Zille is not telling the truth. Cape Town is apartheid city with white appointees. ANC cannot think on their feet. Hope Zuma is listening to Helen. They will do anything to discredit Helen, but they make fools of themselves. DA cannot claim to be a party for all. Okay, that's that one was sent again from Zunguza in Potchefstroom. Zille lives in the leafy suburb of Rondebosch and not the middle class areas of Maubri, as she claims, anonymous. People still use buckets as toilets where the ANC rules. What did the ANC do for Makaza and Cape Town townships before the DA ran the city? Lots of these, but how would you respond generally to what I've just read here, Helen?
Well, firstly, let me just say to the person who thinks they know better than I do where I live, my house is just below the university on the road that divides Rosebank and Mowbray. The majority of people living in that area are black South Africans. It's wonderful to live there. That is precisely why we chose to live there, and we've been living there for 28 years. I currently live in the Premier's residence, but that remains my home, and it is my beloved home because it's been in a non-racial area. So that is where I live, and not in Rondebosch. The second issue is this. I am always frank, honest, and outright about the things that I say. And when you say that the DA is not a party for all the people, we are officially the most non-racial party South Africa has ever had. And again, it's not the DA saying that, and it's not me saying that. It's independent academics who analyse a voter support base that are saying that. We are the most non-racial party South Africa has ever had. And for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been running a young leaders program, bringing in the most outstanding young people from all backgrounds, all religions, all groups, all classes, and we are training them up intensively to be the new leaders of the Democratic Alliance. They're coming through absolutely brilliantly. You've seen on the poster 3 women who all need to be on that poster because 2 are leaders of parties, Patricia and myself, and because Lindiwe Mazbuko is our national election spokesperson and our national spokesperson. And so all of these magnificent young people coming through, strong leaders from all backgrounds, showing that the DA is indeed a party for all the people, and our voters and our members reflect that as well.
Well, let's go to the lines there. Lots of people. Akola in Cape Town, thank you for holding for us.
Hi, Kulani, how are you?
I'm very well, welcome.
Hi, Zille. Hi, Helen.
Hi, Akola.
I'm a young black professional that works in Cape Town, and I would like Helen to just pronounce on the issue of racism, because on a daily basis, and because I live in the northern suburbs, and generally in suburbia in Cape Town, one is generally faced all the time with racism. And the other thing is, I studied in Cape Town, and I go a lot to the townships, and I can tell you, before the DA took over, there are a lot of infrastructure development works going on in the townships, like building of new schools, of community halls, and of community shopping centers within the townships, and that has but halted since the DA took over. And as a black person in Cape Town, and I generally don't feel welcome. I feel out of place, and it's almost like every time I look forward to going to Umtata in Joburg, because I only really feel like a South African, and I can say the DA delivers because I stay in a suburb. But some of my friends that stay in the township sometimes have gone with through a week without having.
Akola, let me ask you to do this.
Yes.
Hold the line. Don't put the phone down. I'm going to ask Helen to respond to you, because that's exactly at the heart of all the arguments that are going on in Cape Town. On the other hand, you have people saying exactly what you're saying, but on the other, the DA is saying they don't know where people are getting their facts from. How do you respond to what Akola is saying, Helen?
Well, I'm saying to Akola that the facts speak for themselves. The northern suburbs where he's chosen to live, and he's very welcome to live wherever he likes, have had services for decades. So all we're doing there is maintaining the basics that have been in place for a long time. What we're doing in places like Khayelitsha, which is actually very young, it's about 25 years old, is we're developing the infrastructure that has developed over decades and decades and possibly even centuries in other places. Now, there is absolutely no comparison between Khayelitsha in 2006 when we took over and Khayelitsha today.
Because the crux of the argument is that some of the projects that were underway in these townships, suddenly when the DA came to power in 2006, stopped.
Now, that's an assertion. Could you please name me a single one?
Akola?
People.
The one is the installment of the building of the hospital in Khayelitsha.
Sorry.
Can I continue, please?
Okay.
You said I must give you examples.
Just give me one example.
In the townships, when a strip of road is being repaired, Kolani, it takes anything. And it takes anything of from a month to literally 4 months to repair road. There are pictures of sporting centers that were said they are going to be built that have not been built. And during the ANC government, we were told that people were told that there will be further development, and there's no further development that is happening.
All right. Akola, thank you very much. Helen?
Look, I think Akola obviously doesn't go to Khayelitsha much, and I'm there every single week. He says the hospital came to a standstill. The hospital is making record progress. It is ahead of budget and ahead of schedule. It will be completed before the projections. It had ground to a halt under the ANC, yes, that is true. But when the voters elected us into office in the Western Cape, we took it up and we're making record progress. So I'd like to invite Akhola to come to Khayelitsha with me, and I will show him the brand new community centre that we built there, wonderful community centre. I will show him the wonderful progress that the hospital is making. I will take him to the 5 new clinics that we've built in very disadvantaged communities. I will take him to the sports centre and the revamped stadium in Philippi. I can take him all over the place.
Okay.
When we're fixing roads, it takes time. You know what Gauteng is like. You can never drive on a road here without a massive traffic jam because they're fixing a road somewhere.
Okay.
The fact of the matter is that we've invested nearly R1 billion in Khayelitsha Central Business Centre, in Khayelitsha Central Business Centre since we took office.